As prices of products and cards continue to rise and casual formats like Commander continue to grow, proxying has become the hot new thing in Magic. All proxying is an attempt to solve a problem of some kind or another, with the most common problem being not having access to real cards. But did you realize there's actually 12 different kinds of proxiers? We're all trying to solve very different problems. Here's a quick rundown. The I just want to play the game guy. Problem: real cards are just too expensive. The I just want to play the game guy is the most basic level of proxier. Magic cards can be super expensive, and not all of us can be hedge fund bros, crypto shills, pop stars, or were born in 1970 and started playing Magic back in 1993 when Black Lotus cost the same as a Whopper. The I just want to play the game guy just wants to, play the game and use all the game pieces, even the old expensive ones. But they also want to pay their rent and maybe chomp a piece of avocado toast on occasion. Is that really too much to ask? The apologetic proxier. Problem: guilt. You'll most often run into the apologetic proxier at a big event like a Magic Con. They'll sit down at the table for a game of Commander with a downcast look like they just finished watching that episode of Roseanne that Marrow wrote, and immediately start into a speech that goes something like this. So I just wanted to tell you that I have some proxies in my deck, but don't worry, I'll take them out. And at this point they start shuffling through their backpack, muttering things like, oh, I think I have some old basic lands in here somewhere I can replace them with. The rest of the table looks at each other and then pats the apologetic proxier on the back and tells him, oh no, you don't have to do that. Proxies are fine with us. So then the game starts and the apologetic proxier wins on turn 4 by Gaia's cradling into a Craterhoof behemoth. The lazy proxier. Problem: moving Magic cards is just way too much work. The lazy proxier sits down to the table and confidently tells everyone else that they're playing proxies, but proudly explains that they actually own all the cards. They just didn't feel like taking them out of their binder and actually putting them into a deck. It was just way too much effort. If you don't believe me, I'll show you, they say, and they start to reach for this massive binder. You assure them that won't be necessary, as you wonder if carrying around a massive binder and giving the I actually own all the cards speech every game they play is actually just more work than putting the real cards into an actual deck. The Bling Proxy. Problem: there just aren't enough card styles. It's 2023, there's a new secret layer drop every other day, and each new card gets 20 treatments with different borders and art, but that's just not enough for the Bling Proxier. They can afford whatever cards they want. Wizards just hasn't printed exactly what they're looking for, but Etsy has. The Bling Proxier will have them all, probably in a massive binder they'll carry around with them at the event, and force you to look through like a 45-year-old divorced dad pulling out pictures of their kid from their wallet. You can't look away because it's just not polite, but inside you're slowly dying. The Softcore Proxy guy. Problem: real Magic cards just have way too much clothing. Magic cards are expensive. If you're going to spend $140 on a Commander precon or $325 on a booster box, you should at least get to see a little skin, right? Such is the mindset of the Softcore Proxy guy. Their proxies are exclusively attractive women with big breasts and little clothing, but technically nothing showing. The cards probably make you feel a bit uncomfortable, but not uncomfortable enough to actually say anything about it. Plus, if you do, the Softcore Proxy guy will launch into this 5-minute speech about how Earthbind is a real Magic card and art is supposed to make you feel uncomfortable, so it's just not worth the work. The super uncomfortable anime guy. Problem: loves anime a bit too much. This super uncomfortable anime proxy guy has literally no sense of shame or what is and isn't acceptable in a public setting. They pull out their cards and you see the art and you don't just wonder why anyone would put them on a Magic card, but you wonder if it's even legal to be looking at. To your horror, they sit down at your table and make some horrible joke about the girl sitting at the next table, and then they laugh loudly as they pull out their playmat, which would definitely get this video demonetized if I described what it looks like. You pretend like your phone's ringing and have this fake conversation with no one about how your apartment might be flooding, and quickly excuse yourself to run home and take a shower. The Shell Proxy. Problem: has way too much money and loves WotC a bit too much. The Shell Proxy was always firmly against proxies. Whenever the topic of proxies would come up, he'd run to the same argument that people would use against forgiving student loans. He paid for his cards, so you should have to pay for your cards too, or else how is that fair to him? You sit down for a casual game of Commander and explain there's a proxy dual land in your deck, and the Shell Proxyer's first impulse is to raise their hand and call over a judge and try to get you DQ'd from your casual casual Commander game. But then 30th Anniversary Edition happened, and now the Shell Proxier loves proxies. But there's a catch. They have to be printed by Wizards and sold for $250 a pack. Sure, their proxies might actually cost more than the real versions of their cards, but hey, that's a small price to pay to make sure you stay on the nice list to get some free Hot Pocket swag. The Do-It-Yourself Proxier. Problem: arrogance and way too much time on their hands. You sit down to the table, the Do-It-Yourself Proxier pulls out a card and asks you to look at it. It's a foil proxy Chandra. Yeah, that's sweet, you say as you shuffle your deck. The Do-It-Yourself Proxy replies, I made it myself. At this point, your heart sinks. For the next 20 minutes, the Do-It-Yourself Proxier explains in great detail how they took a random foil comment and used a process they found on Reddit to remove the art, and then they printed the proxy themselves. But what really matters, they say, is the printers. They go into a spiel about dot matrices and how important they are. They spent $5,000 on a professional printer, but it was totally worth it because now all they need to do is buy real foil Magic cards, remove the foiling, stock up on ink, and they can play whatever they want. The Sharper. Problem: they're too busy testing for an RPTQ to care about trivial things like art or rules decks. The Sharper sits down at the table and asks if you want to test some Modern with them. I'm playing the build of Rakdos from the Cookieville 5K last weekend, but I don't have all the cards yet. I ordered them from Card Kingdom over at cardkingdom.com/MTGGoldfish, and they're in the mail. They pull out their deck and it's all leftover Draft Chaff basic lands with card names scribbled on them in some of the messiest black Sharpied handwriting you've ever seen. The game's super close. Both of you end up at 2 life, but you have a lethal lava spike in hand for the next turn. Your opponent plays a basic that says Shieldred on it, and you nod. Shieldred doesn't do anything against your empty board. They pass the turn, you untap, draw, and start to show your lava spike, but the Sharper stops you. You gotta take 2 from Shieldred, right? They say. You look at the basic planes with Shieldred scrawled across it, wondering, did you just get scammed by a basic land in an unsanctioned test match? Oh yeah, you say, I guess so. Good luck in that qualifier. The white bordered proxier. Problem: they're stuck at 9th edition and just refuse to grow up. As far as I know, it's never been determined if white border proxiers are actually just trolls living in the human world like crab people, or if they just authentically love white border cards. But you know what is for sure about them? All their cards must have a white border. You know that beautiful foil Onslaught Polluted Delta or that $800 Gaia's Cradle? They're pretty nice, but you know what would make them even better? A white border. The Regretful Old School Proxier. Problem: the inability to see the future. Did you know that when Mirage released back in 1996, Lion's Eye Diamond was considered to be one of the worst cards ever printed and was essentially worthless? The Old School Regretful Proxier does, because back in 1996, they really wanted a copy of Belduvian Horde, but they had just spent all their money on a Nirvana album, so they did what any Magic player in this situation would do and make a copy out of the most worthless card they had in their collection, Lion's Eye Diamond. Sure, they might pretend that it was worth it because they got a free drink once by telling the story at a bar, but as you gaze into their eyes, you can see this deep sadness of someone who knows they ruined a $400 card by writing Belduvian Horde across the front of it in black Sharpie. The secret lair guy. Problem: FOMO. As you sit down to a game of Commander, your opponent starts showing you their deck. The art is strange. It doesn't look like Magic art at all. You can't read any of the text on the cards. It's impossible to tell what your opponent's cards are, what they do, or even what they're playing. Normally, you're pretty understanding about proxies. Magic's expensive after all, and if proxies can help people enjoy the game, that's great, but even you have your limits. You apologetically look at your opponent and say, you know, I have no problem with proxies, but I can't really understand what any of your cards are or read their text. Would you mind playing something else this game? The secret lair guy looks back at you confused. I'm not playing any proxies, they say. All of my cards are real. They come from secret lairs. You quickly excuse yourself, saying you need to go to the bathroom. You walk out of the convention center, toss your backpack into the nearest dumpster, hike up your pants above your belly button, and wander the cold, harsh streets of the city, mumbling about Savannah Lions, Tarmogoyfs, and how back in your day, Magic cards look like Magic cards. And those are the 12 types of proxiers. Which type are you? Let me know in the comments. Looking for even more Magic? Well, make sure to check out the video about the most hated card from every single year of the game, or maybe the one about the most infamous cheaters who have ever played Magic the Gathering.